trade war or Cold War or both? The Trump administration has pulled out of a long-standing missile treaty. We called up CBS News correspondent Major Garrett at the White House.
This is a product of Cold War nuclear negotiations when there was a Soviet Union in the United States and President Reagan, then President Reagan, Soviet leader Gorbachev, negotiated this to reduce the prospect of any kind of nuclear conflict. Intermediate range missiles was an important part because both nations were stockpiling it. This is breaking news in the sense the United States has formally announced its withdrawal from this, but the administration has been signaling this for months, citing what it contends and has lots of evidence to back up, repeated Russian violations of the terms of this agreement, producing intermediate range nuclear armaments that clearly, from the United States' point of view, violate the terms of this agreement. And as such, the United States, or the Trump administration, says there's no point in either trying to negotiate with the Russians for them to end this behavior. There's been, through two other previous administrations, a general tolerance, thinking that if you don't call this out and you don't challenge the Russians, maybe they will change their behavior. Yeah. Trump administration said, we've seen enough. They're not changing their behavior. We're pulling out, giving what the United States now asserts its own capability to develop its own intermediate range nuclear weapons. Mm-hmm. And that has also, to your point, captured the attention of China, adding yet another dimension to, are we stockpiling? Are we moving? Are we in an arms race again? And is it not just the United States and the former Soviet Union, but is it other players on the world stage, possibly China as well?
20 presidential hopefuls debated this week. So far, we haven't heard that any are dropping out, but I'm assuming we're getting to the point now where some of these campaigns are going to be unsustainable. Who is going to leave the field first?
Well, I think if you look at that roster from the first night of the debates in Detroit, I would say probably half of that field will not make it to the next round of debates in September. The threshold keeps getting higher. So essentially what the Democratic National Committee has said to these Democratic aspirants, look, you can all run, no problem. And for a while, as many of you as we can afford, as can accommodate, to be on a debate stage.
Right.
But that's not in perpetuity. And there's going to be a winnowing. How is that winnowing going to be achieved? Well, each and every time you have to have higher poll numbers and more unique, meaning individualized donors that are not repeaters. And the next standard is you got to be at 2% in 4 polls, different polls, and 130,000 unique donors. Now, they don't have to give a lot of money, just $1 qualifies, but still, that takes a lot of effort for a campaign to meet those thresholds.
What's the buzz on Jay Inslee, our governor, on the other side of the country? How does the world look at Jay Inslee? We have our own interpretation over here in Washington State.
So the interpretation around the first set of debates was kind of a one-trick pony, one note. Mm-hmm. Understandably, it's where Governor Inslee has placed all of his emphasis.
On combating global warming is what you're referring to.
Yes, on combating global warming. But many reporters looked at his performance this week and said, yes, he was there, but then he also touched on a much broader array of issues, was very descriptive about what had happened in Washington, how his legislature and under his leadership things had changed on issues that were important to Democrats, but not just about global climate change, and that he could have done himself enough to get more supporters, meaning more donors, and better poll numbers. If anyone dramatically, if not dramatically, certainly visibly improved their chances of getting to that next round, who was definitely on the outside edges, it was Governor Inslee.
Okay, CBS Chief White House Correspondent Major Garrett. Major's hosting Face the Nation on Sunday. His guests include Congressman Tim Hurd and Senator Bernie Sanders.